Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaudavani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So last week we studied chapter 1, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And we saw in that chapter how Arjuna gave many arguments from different angles of vision why he does not want to fight this battle. Chapter 2 is the second longest chapter in the Gita. It is entitled by Srila Prabhupada, Contents of the Gita Summarized. So, if you ever want to do a quick review of Bhagavad-gita, chapter 2 being a summary is a good chapter to study from time to time. There's 4 or 5 sections that I've broken this chapter out. So today we're going to cover the first 2 sections. The first section is verses 1 through 10, entitled, How Arjuna Surrenders. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudan Krishna spoke the following words, because the chapter ended by Arjuna dropping his bow and telling, O Govinda, I shall not fight. So that is how chapter 1 ended. Now, Krishna begins to speak. My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart, and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. So right off the bat, after Arjuna has given his arguments why he doesn't want to fight, Krishna rejects everything that Arjuna has posted. And I've been asked over the years, how can we understand this? And I've come up with this example. Say in your home, you're being attacked by some criminal. So immediately you will call the police, and you will expect the police to come and protect you because that is their function. Here in Los Angeles, on the police car, it says to serve and protect. And that is the function of the police. And we expect them to do their duty. So if in your situation you were being attacked by some criminals, and the policeman came to your door but then said, "Oh, I'm not going to get involved." Just imagine you're being attacked, and the policeman comes to your door and then thinks, "Nah, I don't want to get involved." How would you feel? You would feel completely cheated that the policeman is not doing his duty. And that is the angle of vision Krishna is going to explain to Arjuna. Because repeatedly throughout Bhagavad-gita, Krishna will say so many things, and then he'll say, "Therefore, get up and fight." Because it's Arjuna's duty to do so. Just like the policeman's duty is to protect you if you are being attacked by criminals. It's his duty. It's not a question of does he feel like it. No, he has to do his prescribed duty. So this is what Krishna is pointing out right now. First thing Krishna is saying here, you have become degraded. You don't know what you're supposed to do. Your decision is not worthy. He calls impotence. And he says it doesn't become you because throughout Arjuna's life, he has done many heroic feats. He has battled demons. He's battled demigods. He has done so many amazing things. So Krishna knows very well what is Arjuna's capabilities. So Krishna cannot believe it that at this moment, the moment they've been waiting so many years to seek proper revenge, and Arjuna saying, "I shall not fight." So Krishna is not pleased with Arjuna's arguments. Arjuna now says, "O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counterattack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona who are worthy of my worship?" Now this is a good point. This is another valid point. You could say that Arjuna is saying, you want me to kill my Bhishma and Drona, the very person who taught me everything. Arjuna was Dronacharya's favorite disciple. Favorite. And now Krishna expects Arjuna to kill his guru? So you can empathize with Arjuna. From Arjuna's angle of vision, you can empathize. It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, still they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. So again, confusion. We have an expression, being stuck between a rock and a hard place. We will all experience this at different times of our lives. Should I do this? Should I do this? We become bewildered. We become confused. So Arjuna is admitting, nor do we know which is better. If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, then we should not care to live. Yet They are now standing before us on the battlefield. So another expression, kill or be killed. Another rock in the hard place. Now this next statement is what I call the turning point of Bhagavad-gita. This verse is it's the actual turning point. Arjuna now says to Krishna, so now I am confused about my duty, and I've lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. This is what every one of us, we should come to this conclusion. Although Arjuna has been giving so many arguments, and he admits again, I am confused, he's making the intelligent decision. He wants to stop his his friendly relationship with Krishna. They have done many things together throughout their lives. In many ways, they're like equals. They're great friendship. But now Arjuna wants that no more. Now I am your disciple. This is the turning point of Bhagavad-gita. Now I am your disciple. When you accept someone as a spiritual master, you are submitting yourself as subservient. You don't accept a guru thinking we're equal. That's not the relationship. The relationship between disciple and guru is one of master and servant. You should not accept a guru unless you're willing to accept that person as being superior to you, as being someone who has the right to chastise you. So this is very important concept. Arjuna is telling Krishna, now I am and a soul surrendered. Surrendered. So Arjuna is saying, I don't know what I should do. I'm confused. I'm bewildered. But Arjuna has enough sense to at least become Krishna's disciple. So similarly, all of us should come to that point, like Arjuna, where we say the very same thing. Now I am your disciple, Krishna, and a soul surrendered unto you. And this whole Bhagavad-gita is Krishna's instruction, not just to Arjuna. Arjuna is just the target. Whatever Krishna is saying to Arjuna applies to all of us. But as we will see at the end of Bhagavad-gita, another very important teaching of Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says, now I have told you everything. Now you decide what you want to do. Free will. Free will. So yes, we should come to this point. Krishna, I surrender unto you, and I will become your disciple by studying Bhagavad-gita. Bhagavad-gita is the beginning of transcendental knowledge. Let us continue. Arjuna says, I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it, even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth, with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. In other words, at this point, Arjuna sees no good outcome. He sees there's no benefit. We do things in life because we see some benefit. But at this point, Arjuna sees no benefit from fighting this war. He's confused, he's bewildered, he's been lamenting, but he has enough sense to surrendered to Krishna. So when we get in that same spot, and every one of us will be like Arjuna at some point in our lives, every one of us, hopefully when you come to that point, you also will turn to Bhagavad-gita for your solution. Bhagavad-gita is the solution, practical solution to everything in life. When I was just a new devotee in the temple, I was living in a room with two other devotees who had been devotees for several years. I was brand new. So one of them, his name was Santosh Das, and he was very kind to me, and he told me that if you read this Bhagavad-gita, gradually it will become your best friend. And his words proved to be true. As there's a song I sometimes sing, when I find myself in times of trouble, Prabhupada comes to me, speaking Bhagavad-gita, Haribol. So when you are in distress, when you're in doubt, when you're in confusion, turn to Bhagavad-gita, you will find your solution. Sanjaya now speaks. Remember, this Bhagavad-gita opened with Dhritarashtra inquiring from Sanjaya what's happening on the battlefield. So Sanjaya is relating everything to Dhritarashtra. So every so often Sanjaya will interject. Having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, O Govinda, I shall not fight, and then fell silent. O descendant of Bharat, Dhritarashtra, at that time, Krishna, smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. So Arjuna is lamenting. Arjuna is bewildered, confused, but Krishna is smiling. Why? Because Krishna is never in illusion. Krishna is always above the modes of nature. Here, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna has been placed under the influence of the modes of nature. That's why he's lamenting. The situation has become too big for him. But Krishna, there's no situation. Krishna is smiling because Krishna has all the answers. That's Krishna. He has all the answers. It's all here in Bhagavad-gita. All the answers are here. So now Krishna will begin his instructions of Bhagavad-gita. It begins here in chapter 2. So here's the second section, 20 verses, verses 11 through 30, which I entitled Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya means to count, to enumerate. And there's a kind of philosophy, Sankhya philosophy, which analyzes the whole material manifestation in terms of 24 elements. If you want to read that in detail, you would read the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the chapters where Lord Kapila is answering the questions of his mother Devahuti. It's several chapters in the third canto, and that is Sankhya, analyzing how to see this material world in terms of 24 elements. The 25th, the Jiva soul, and 26th, God. But for now, since Bhagavad-gita is the beginning of transcendental knowledge, so we're going to begin with these 20 verses. These 20 verses are going to help us to understand what is the difference between matter and spirit, the difference between the body and the soul, the difference between that which is temporary and that which is eternal. That is Sankhya Yoga in terms of these 20 verses. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, that's also significant. The Sanskrit, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Vyasadeva included Bhagavad-gita in his great epic Mahabharata. But he does not say Sri Krishna Uvacha. No. Throughout Bhagavad-gita he says Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, meaning don't think that this Bhagavad-gita is being spoken by an ordinary politician or pundit or no. Bhagavan means the supreme authority. When we have a very serious situation, we want to get information from an authority, somebody who knows. So Krishna is the topmost authority, Bhagavan, the possessor of 6 opulences to an unlimited degree. One of those is jnana, knowledge. Krishna's knowledge is unlimited. So there is no better authority than Krishna. So he is the person who's speaking this Bhagavad-gita, the one who has unlimited knowledge. My dear Arjuna, while speaking so-called learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Now, some people find this first statement hard to appreciate, but as we go through this 20 verses, it will become apparent. Now comes a very important verse. Never was there a time when I, Krishna, did not exist, nor you, Arjuna, nor all these kings on the battlefield. Neither in the future shall any of us cease to be. So here is a fundamental teaching of transcendental knowledge. You always existed. Not this, not the body. That has a birth date. That's not what Krishna's referring to. He's referring to something else. There's something about you that always existed. Just by definition. If there's a definition of God, one of them has to be that he always existed. If God has a beginning, that negates the very definition of God. God has to be that thing which always existed, and as he says here, and will continue to exist. Some people, less intelligent, they think, oh, I get this a lot from so-called followers of Lord Shiva. Oh, your Krishna died in the Mahabharata at the end when the hunter shot him in the foot. Your Krishna died. I've dealt with some people like that. They say Krishna is not God because he was shot in the foot by a hunter and died. Nonsense. That's total nonsense. By definition, God cannot die. And here, Krishna is saying, you also, you don't die. The body dies, yes, but that's not you. You, the real you, that is eternal. You always existed, and you will exist forever. I give the example, but it's from Prabhupada's teaching. The sun and the sun rays, they exist simultaneously. But the sun ray is dependent on the sun globe, not vice versa. The sun ray is part and parcel of the sun. The sun ray has all the qualities of the sun planet. There's no difference between the sun ray and the sun planet. But one is the origin of the other. So you and I, we are like sun rays emanating from Krishna. Krishna is like the sun. There is a famous verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Bengali. I hope I get it right, Shrilays. Krishna Surya Samamaya Haya Andakar. I tried my best. So, Krishna is like the sun, and we are like the sun ray. We cannot exist independent of Krishna. Krishna can exist independent of us, but we exist simultaneously with Krishna. So, as the sun is always there, the sun ray is there, just as Krishna has always been there, we, being emanations from Krishna, always existed. When I first learned this in Bhagavad-gita, I became ecstatic. I learned this way back in 1973, and I became so happy when I finally understood it, that I always existed. And that now I'm 70 years old. I look in the mirror, I go like this. I see Manisha's young sons, handsome, nice young sons. But don't worry, someday you'll be 70 and you'll also go, ugh. Wrinkles, gray hair, coughing, teeth, so many aches and pains. But remember, what you see in the mirror, that's not you. You haven't seen the real you yet. That is awaiting to be seen. Okay, let's continue. Now Krishna gives an analogy to help us understand. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So, how to understand death? Actually, we are dying all the time. Medical science says every 7 years, all the cells in the body have been replaced. So, I am 70 years old. That means I have died 10 times already. 10 times, but I look at Manisha's sons, right? I used to be like that, young, lots of energy, happy, so many things. Now I can't do that anymore. But I still feel the same way I did when I was 15, 16. I'm the same person. I can remember so many things. But this has changed. But I have stayed the same. So, just as we are changing every 7 years, you have a new replenished body. So, is it so difficult to understand that at the time of death, you'll get another body? How is that so difficult to understand? You've already experienced death already. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise only from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So yes, material existence teaches us to be tolerant. All of you who are parents, you understand this. When you got married, when you had children, you were forced to learn tolerance. You were forced by so many experiences. You have to tolerate your wife, and she has to tolerate you. You have to tolerate your disobedient children, or you may have to tolerate so many things in the workplace. Yes, this whole material existence simply forces us to learn tolerance. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress, and who is steady in both, is certainly eligible for liberation. So yes, this concept of liberation, moksha, is very much taught in the Vedas. So here is one of the keys how you can be eligible. Don't be disturbed by happiness and distress, meaning do your prescribed duties, whether you feel like it or don't feel like it, you do your prescribed duties. Husbands, fathers, your prescribed duties: earn money, take care of the family. Wife's duty: take care of the children, serve the husband. Children's duties: obey the parents. Go to school. Either, I don't know what you're doing. Here in America now, it's all going to be virtual school. You can't go to school because of this COVID-19. And they say it's very difficult to do the online school. Too bad. Be steady. Do your prescribed duty. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, such as this material body, there is no endurance, and of that which is eternal, such as the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So here Krishna is referring to the previous transcendentalists, munis, sadhus. They have reached that status. Why? Because they can understand here is something which has temporary existence, like this body. It's temporary. Later on, the material body, Krishna will say, is just like an automobile, yantra, a machine. So you've had so many cars, so many automobiles. When it becomes useless, you buy the next one. You buy a better one. You don't lament, oh, I really like that. No. When the car is no longer useful, you get an upgrade. You get a better car. So the same way, when this body is no longer usable, you'll get another one. Hopefully it will be an upgrade. But if you're bad, you don't get an upgrade. You get downgrade. It's like if you go on international flights, maybe you businessmen, like you all remember Levine, Magnani. So Levine, when he goes to China, he flies first class. One time I was able to fly first class. Oh, so nice flying first class. I get to lie down, take nice rest. But I only had to go once. Then after all the other times, back in coach. Nobody likes that. Once you've flown first class, you don't want to go back to coach. So, here this verse is explaining, there is an energy which has temporary existence. And then there's another energy which is eternal, which does not change. So that's the soul. The soul does not change. It's existing as it is forever. Now Krishna will explain more. That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. So we learn from the Vedas, where does the soul reside? In the heart. And we will learn from Bhagavad-gita at least 5 times. Krishna says, I am also in the heart. So Krishna is our next door neighbor. He's right next to us. And even though the soul is atomic in size, the soul is so powerful that we have consciousness all throughout the body. If you touch my feet, I'll feel it. If you touch my head, because the presence of the soul is perceived by consciousness. Because we have consciousness, that means there is the soul. So Krishna is saying it's indestructible, it's immeasurable, meaning materially you cannot calculate. Although the Vedas give us an understanding, the Vedas say the dimension of the soul is 1/10,000th the tip of the hair. But that's just to give us an idea. That's just to give us an idea, because it says here it's immeasurable. Why? Why is it immeasurable? Because you cannot mix apples and oranges, two different energies. No material instrument can measure the soul because it's spiritual. So you cannot, there's no material measurement. Although the Vedas say, just to give us some idea how to understand 1/10,000th the tip of the hair, atomic. But still that soul is so powerful, it gives consciousness to the entire body. And imperishable. Imperishable. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. The body, not the soul. The soul does not come to an end, but the material body has to come. In the Christian religion, I know, before becoming a devotee, there was a ceremony every year, Ash Wednesday. You would go to the church and they put ash on your forehead, and the priest would recite, "Dust thou art, and dust thou shalt return." Meaning, the body is material. It will be buried, eaten by worms, or in Hindu custom, cremated. It'll turn to ash. So the body will come to an end, but not you. You do not come to an end. The eternal so the material body must come to an end. Therefore fight, O descendant of Bharat. So here's first affirmation by Krishna. This whole Bhagavad-gita, Krishna will be consistent. Krishna will say so many things, and then he will say, therefore, get up and fight. Krishna wants Arjuna to fight this battle. That's Krishna's point in preaching Bhagavad-gita. Just to get him to fight this war, because it's Krishna's master plan. Krishna has set up a chessboard called the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Krishna has come, as we will learn next week when we celebrate Janmashtami. Why did Krishna come? Because Mother Earth and the demigods prayed to Krishna, please come and alleviate the burden caused by Kamsa and all the demoniac kings. That's why Krishna came. Same way with Ram. Ram was asked to come because the demigods were fed up with Ravana. So Ram came, why? To kill Ravana. And Krishna came to kill all the demons. So Krishna comes, this whole battle of Kurukshetra is to take care of the final demons. The Kauravas were the last batch of demons. From the very beginning, since Krishna was a little baby, he was killing demons. Throughout his whole Leela, one demon after another. He fought Jarasandha 18 times. 17 times Krishna would kill his army. So Krishna's mission was to kill all the demons. This battle of Kurukshetra, last batch, finish it up. So this is all part of Krishna's plan. Neither one who thinks the living entity to be the slayer, nor one who thinks the living entity is ever slain, is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. The soul is actually doing nothing. Everything is taking place on the basis of the modes of nature and the different instruments, but the soul itself is doing nothing. The soul is itself passive, but the soul is deciding, do this, do this, do this. And the soul has given power of attorney over to the mind. That's why we will learn in chapter 6, your mind can be your best of friend, or your mind can be your worst enemy. In all yoga practice, first item, control the mind, because the mind is going to determine what's going to happen next life, all by the decisions of the mind, because the soul has given power of attorney over to the mind. But the soul itself is aloof. But because I'm attached to this body, I experience all these things. It's like being in a movie theater. Say you go to a movie theater with surround sound, and if the movie is really good, you get so absorbed in the movie. But then the movie is over and you go, oh, it was just a movie. But while you were watching the movie, it was very real, wasn't it? Our material existence is like a movie. We are all in a different movie, every one of us. And because we're attached, we experience happiness and distress, suffering and all these things. Why? Because we're attached to the movie. But Krishna consciousness means come out of the darkness into the light. That's what Bhagavad-gita is doing, pulling you out of the movie. And it begins here. This is the beginning, right? When the movie is over, they turn on the lights. The movie, it's all dark. But when the movie is over, okay, time to go, turn on the lights. So Krishna is turning on the lights and trying to get you to end your material movie of material existence. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. The soul has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. Why? Because it's ever existing. So there is no past, present. It's eternal, always existing. The soul is unborn. Unborn. All you fathers, you know, you were there when your wife gave birth to your son or daughter. You saw it. You were there. They don't know, but you saw it. But that has nothing to do with the soul. There is no birthday for the soul. The soul always existed. The soul is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. The soul is not slain when the body is slain. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable? Immutable means cannot change it. You cannot change anything about the soul. So how can a person who knows this kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Now Krishna gives another brilliant analogy to help us to understand the difference between the body and the soul. As a person puts on new garments, giving up the old ones. That's like before the program, I was wearing a black t-shirt. But I said, no, black is not good to wear for satsang. So I put on this nice yellow t-shirt. That's more sattvic, much more presentable. So I put on a new t-shirt. I didn't change, right? I'm still the same Nirantara, no matter what t-shirt I put on. So it says, as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So how to understand birth and death, birth and death? Simple. It's like putting on new clothes. That's all. That's all death is. Getting a new set of clothes. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon. The soul can never be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind, because the soul is not affected by anything material. It's two different energies. Two different energies. Perhaps you've seen a container with oil and water. They separate because you cannot mix oil and water. They separate, and you can see very clearly, here is the oil, here is the water. I think the oil goes to the top, I think. Right? They cannot mix. So same way, the soul does not mix with anything in this material world. They're two separate energies, distinct. The individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, cannot be burned nor dry. The soul is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. It is said the soul is invisible. Yes. We get this argument all the time. I don't believe in the soul. Show me the soul. Yes, that's true. You cannot see God or the soul in your laboratory. Doesn't work that way. I'll believe in God when I can see him. You get that argument from the agnostic or the atheist. I believe in God when I can see him. Doesn't work that way. No. It's invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. If, however, you think that the soul or symptoms of life is always born and dies forever, still you have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. For one who has taken birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Another important lesson. In the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when they're annihilated. That's like you have all been to a funeral. So you're seeing the dead body of your relative or friend, but the person, the soul, has already taken birth somewhere else already. The person you were seeing all those years, he's right there. But that's his body, not him. Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe the soul as amazing. Some hear of the soul as amazing, while others, even after hearing about the soul, cannot understand the soul at all. Prabhupada points out in this section that you cannot verify the existence of God and the soul by any material calculation. The only way you can verify it at this stage is by the scriptures, by the Vedas. There's no material verification. It's only because we accept the statements of the Shastra. Final verse of this section. O descendant of Bharat, one who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore you need not grieve for any living being. So that ends this section of Krishna's analysis of the difference between the body and the soul. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.